Welcome to Loving Me Before I Love You with Tammy Nicole, the podcast dedicated to you loving and putting yourself first. Others have come first in your life for years, and you know it's time for that to change. You're about to be empowered to set healthy boundaries, confidently have hard conversations, unapologetically put yourself first, and live the peaceful life you deserve. Remember, self-love is essential, and loving yourself sets the stage for every other love in your life. So get ready to embrace self-love like never before with your host, Coach Tammy Nicole.
All right, welcome friends back to Loving Me Before I Love You podcast. It is Transformation Tuesday, and we are back with another great episode. As we're still in the month of July, we are still talking all things freedom as we are freeing ourselves from shackles. We're freeing ourselves from bad behavior. We probably shouldn't call it bad, but we know it's bad. Old behavior, things that we need to unlearn, learn new ways of doing things in a healthier way. And today will be no different. We're talking about the power of feminine energy, balancing independence with nurturing strength. And I have a wonderful guest with me today. I have Coach Janis. She is a boundaries coach, and she teaches women boundaries through the proper way of effective communication. And we're super excited that she has joined us for this episode. Welcome to the show, Janis.
Thank you for having me. I love being here. Thank you so much for having me, Coach Tammy.
Awesome. So how are you?
I'm doing really good for a Tuesday. I'm doing good.
Awesome. Well, as I said, we're talking about being free, right? This month of July is about being free. It's Independence Month, and we as women are learning how to be independent all the time, even though sometimes we get a bad rap for being independent. We're still learning to navigate that through the power of feminine energy, right? So tell me, when you hear or think about feminine energy, what comes to mind first?
I just think of a woman who knows who she is and kind of moves through life, not even kind of moves through life, knowing who she is, knowing her purpose. She has multiple purposes, and she loves what she is, who she represents, and what comes out of her mouth. She owns everything. I love, when women stand in their own. And I think that's a really hard thing to do, especially nowadays, that society really doesn't encourage that behavior. But we as women, we need to have that because it helps us.
Yeah, but society does, I won't say they frown upon it, but they do give us a hard time regarding it. But now that women have kind of changed the narrative of what independence really looks like these days, I think that we are moving into a space of our soft era and independence at the same time. What does that look like for you when you are helping women learn how to communicate boundaries?
When I'm helping women learn how to communicate boundaries, I tell them to learn to love their voice. I believe that our voices aren't encouraged to be honest, to love ourselves and to say it and love ourselves with authenticity, to love ourselves out loud. Our voices just aren't, encouraged to be. But I encourage women to listen to their intuition, listen to themselves, and be okay with that, love that, and move. That's because I believe that's how you can move through society, by being able to love yourself and to be able to communicate whatever you need to communicate. So you're able to stand up for yourself. I always say I want to be able to show up as myself everywhere. And I teach women to be comfortable in doing that.
Yeah, I think that's such a struggle because most of us don't know who we are. I think you mentioned basically being able to show up and stand in a way, like just kind of stand in your voice, make sure that your voice is heard and know what your voice is and follow that intuition, but most of us don't trust it. Most of us don't, trust our own selves, our own decision making. We're always looking to others to validate or confirm what our thoughts are, confirm our decisions, confirm, did I hear that right? Should I really do that? And not saying that getting the opinion of others is not important or that you shouldn't do that. But at the same time, it's like you have to sit with yourself and learn who you are to know what good sound judgment and things like that is for you.
No, I totally agree. I always tell people, because I'm that way, I have to be able to quiet the noise in order to hear the signal. So I can't live in chaos. I
Mhm.
can't live with a lot of people talking. So I can't listen to everybody's opinion. I can't listen to there's certain people that I trust to hear their opinion. And there's my circles are small. I don't move in big circles. But the people that I move with are the people who I've listened to because I've had to be quiet
Mhm.
and listen to them to hear what they're saying because not everybody's saying stuff that makes sense to me. But when I hear it, I'm like, okay, or whatever that is. I also think to be able to trust your voice, you have to
Mhm.
hear it. You have to be quiet. You can't always be the one that's talking. You have to learn. You have to humble yourself to learn too. That's about loving yourself. It comes under that umbrella. You have to be able to humble yourself to be able to learn and to be quiet.
Yeah, being still is very difficult for most people,
Yeah, it's
especially
hard.
especially
It's
when you're
hard.
out here trying to navigate the waters of the world of like, I need to make money. I need to be, this strong, independent, assertive woman. I also need to be soft and compassionate and nurturing. Like, it's like, where do I find the balance? How do I find the balance? Um,
Yeah.
I think that we as women do not put enough emphasis on the bond with other women to actually balance that out. I think a lot of times we find it difficult because, you think about it, having strong girlfriend relationships has not been the running narrative. It's, always been something, some level of conflict, some level of jealousy, some level of one up and all of that. But that to me is what helps brings the balance between the strong assertive side and the compassionate nurturing side of us as
Yeah,
women.
yes, I totally agree. Women aren't meant to compete with other men with other women. I don't think that's normal. I know that's been normalized by any circle, but to me, it's not normal to compete with somebody else. I don't want to look at the next person who's doing something or who's a boundaries coach or whatever is a coach and be jealous of that. I want to be able to uplift them and be an ear for them, just like I want them to be an ear for me. But the sisterhood, I know that's tossed around a lot. But a sisterhood is very communal. It's not about being jealous about someone else. So, in order to have that as well, you have to be able to be comfortable with yourself. You have to be able to hear so and so. So you're able to trust your voice, to hear your voice. And I think we have to change the way we think about being quiet, how we think about not having to say anything. That's not what I'm trying to tell people. I think you can talk, you can be your personality, you can whatever you need to be, but you don't have to one up, you don't have to compete with someone else to be effective, to be able to be a part of a sisterhood, to be a part of whatever you need to be. You don't need to be that way. You can be soft and you can be feminine. That's what it's about. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the feminine relationships or the girlfriend relationships should ignite the soft side, um, and should help you. when you talk about even other relationships and breaking free and like really walking in your feminine energy, because most of the time feminine energy comes up because we're talking about relationships in general, right? We're talking about the romantic relationships and how do I, walk and be his peace and be his soft side and allow him to, lead and allow myself to be submissive when I'm such a leader already, when I'm running my own businesses, I am a mother, I'm doing all of these things that are independent of a man, and I don't know the balance between the two, right? But having feminine relationships or girlfriend relationships should give that space for you to be able to do that, because I should be able to come to a girlfriend and let my hair down and not worry about judgment and not worry about what she's thinking or saying to me, that I don't have to be all put together. And it should allow me to exercise that side of being compassionate, being soft and like vulnerable.
And your friends, the people that love you and you love them, should be able to hold that space for you to do all those things what you just said. Just like your partner should be able to hold that space for you to be able to be that woman, to be that girl, because sometimes we need to be that girl. Sometimes we need to be that woman. We need to be all those things, but be able to hold the space for you.
Mm-hmm.
Each one of the friends and the partner, they have to be able to do that. So it is about changing the narrative, so we're able to be all those things that we need to be.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think the misconceptions are or the challenges that come with setting boundaries?
The misconceptions, first and foremost, is that they're mean. The boundaries are about being mean, shutting people out, putting up walls so they don't come in, or people don't come in who you don't want to come in. You put up that wall so you don't have to deal with them. Also, the misconception is that it's for other people that can afford boundaries, not someone who's just an everyday person.
So when you say someone that can afford boundaries, what is that like? Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Like, what does that really look like?
And I should say afford to have boundaries, which means that I can just, taking the first part of what I was saying about how I can shut people out, I can afford not to have that person in my life. I can afford to say those things, that I can afford to be able to say all those things and do all those things and not worry about the stigma of having boundaries, which is always wrong. Boundaries are not about other people. They are, first and foremost, they're about you and how you treat yourself and what you will and won't take. Your values and your limitations are all about you first. Because I always say you can't have boundaries with other people
If you
until
don't
you
have
have
them with
boundaries with
yourself.
yourself. It's impossible. So I can't say I don't want this from you over there, but I take it for myself and then I'm miserable.
Yeah.
So, do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I tell people all the time, if you won't tell yourself no, how you won't tell them no. If you don't tell yourself yes when it comes to supporting yourself and doing the things that you like, you can't expect or have a boundary for other people to support you. And when they don't, you bounce or
Right.
so absolutely. You
No.
boundary setting starts with you. Absolutely.
Right. And I think people come to me, they really believe that, well, I just need help with the boundary with X, Y, and Z with this person because this person does this. Okay, when I start with them first, what do you do? What's your boundary for yourself? They have no idea. What do you say no to? What do you say no to for yourself? Well, and they always say, well, I never thought of that. Well, that's the first step. You cannot, you cannot say they need to have a boundary with me about this or whatever it is, and you
Yeah.
have like what you said perfectly. You can't say no to yourself. You can't say no about to think to yourself, so what's a boundary? What is it going to do for somebody else if it can't work for you? So I think that's the biggest misconception, is that, well, I should say that, is that people think that boundaries aren't for themselves, or they don't know that it's about themselves first.
Yeah. You mentioned that people don't feel like they can afford to have a boundary. And when I heard you say that, the first thing that came to my mind is that they were in fear of what they would lose if they set one. And for me, boundaries, healthy boundaries, let me back that all the way up, because sometimes you can have boundaries that are not healthy.
Right.
And we don't really observe or look at them from that capacity, that they can be unhealthy or healthy boundaries. And so from a healthy boundary perspective, the fear of losing anything should never, ever be in the equation, because it's about you, right? It's about how you stand up for yourself. It's a standard. It's not a wall, is what I tell people. And so I'm not setting this wall up saying you can't come over here and you can't be close to me and you can't, get involved, or I won't be vulnerable with you. Like, that's not the boundary. The boundary is a standard of how I believe that my life should be operated, interacted with, orchestrated, period. And it starts with me. So when I tell people loving yourself is way more important than loving others or receiving love from others, I say it because how you love you is the blueprint, it's the archetype for how other people are going to love you. And if you don't have that blueprint written down and ironed out, other people will do whatever the heck they want to, because your blueprint doesn't exist. It's just like building a house with no guide. The chimney gonna be on the left side. It was supposed to be on the right. Your stairs gonna be in the back of the house when they were supposed to be in the front. You must put down the way you want someone to treat you, but you have to map it out for yourself. What does it look like? What does it feel like? How do I walk in this so that when other people give it to me, I know what it is?
Exactly. How are you going to know that? How are you going to know somebody's giving you the right boundary, or not even the right boundary, the right self-love, if you don't have any love for yourself? You don't even know what it looks like. And to piggyback on what you say about being healthy, I'm all about healthy boundaries. That's why I call it having a healthy fence. Boundaries are fences. They're not walls. They're fences because you can let people in, and if they don't or do exactly not exactly, but what you say or what you're accustomed to, what your blueprint is, if they're whatever they're doing, so then you have the wherewithal to be like, okay, well, now you can go. Or now you can go on the other side of the fence. It's okay. We can still talk. We can still be whatever. But you can't come into my space and ruin it. There's no wall. I see you. But you can come into my space if you're invited, because I've seen that you have the same values as me, whatever it is that's healthy that I've seen, that I like. You can come in. But if you do something to disrupt that, then you can go back out. Like I said, it's a fence. It's a healthy fence. It's not a wall. Walls aren't healthy. Fences are. Because you can control a fence. You can see through a fence. A walls you can't see through. And I'm not about building walls.
Wow, today's episode is a good one. I know you're enjoying it, and we'll get back to it shortly. Just wanted to take a quick break to let you know that Tammy would love for you to share any questions, comments, or topic ideas you have with her. All you have to do is send them to her in an email to podcast@IamTammyNicole.com. Thank you, and without further ado, let's get back into today's show.
Yeah, because it's not a protection, right? Your boundary
Mm-mm.
is 100% about you.
Yeah,
100%.
a
So
hundred.
when we are trying to teach women to operate in their feminine energy, how do you, if you were to give someone tips right now, like if I'm like, oh man, I want to walk deeper in my feminine energy and still remain like solid on my standards and my beliefs, and I don't want to look like a flimsy leaf just because I'm, soft and not, you know, more masculine in my independence. How do you teach them to do that properly and still remain?
Right, right. That's the key. It really is about mindset. And I go back to and what you said as well, knowing your values, knowing what you can and cannot take, knowing what you will and will not take, knowing yourself. And you have to get concrete on that. You have to know yourself. You have to know what you won't and will not take. So my tip for people is to come correct. I know that's probably old term, and I'm probably dating myself. But come correct, because you have to know yourself. You cannot show up for anybody else without showing up for yourself first, without knowing how you're going to show up. Because you can say that till the cows come home, but if you don't know exactly how you're going to show up, then it's a wrap. So I know when I come to people, or when people are trying to come to me, whatever it is, friendships or acquaintanceships or whatever, I know I can only control Janis. I can tell you everything about Janis. I know her back and forth, but I don't know Tammy, and I don't need to know Tammy in that way. Tammy needs to know Tammy. So she needs to know how she's going to show up, just like Janis needs to know how she's going to show up. So, like I said, my first thing is I always tell people, and I always start that with my coaching program or with whatever I do. But I always start with, well, do you know what you will and won't do? Do you know yourself? And if you don't, I teach you. This is what you need to listen to. This is how you need to listen out for you. This is how you need to do that. But we start with that first, because mindset stuff is a trip, but it's important, and it's
Absolutely.
amazing how much we don't take that in consideration, and we don't think that, like I said, we don't think boundaries are for us first, but it's for somebody else. So showing up for yourself and knowing how you're going to show up for yourself is the number one thing I try to teach people.
Absolutely. So when I talk mindset, I talk to people and say, write your thoughts down. And people say, wait, why do I want to write my thoughts down? Because a lot of times you don't even see the types of thoughts that you're having until you can see them on paper.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
We see a lot of things, we say, a lot of flooding thoughts kind of happen in general. And
Mm-hmm.
your thoughts change every day based upon who you're interacting with. They change based upon what you see, be it social media, be it, the news, anything, right? It's like I see what I'm attracted to. And what I'm attracted to changes my thought pattern. And a lot of times when we don't know who we are, our thought patterns and the things that we seek sway. They sway back and forth, up and down, around the corner and back again, because we don't really know who we are. And so when we are doing mindset shifting and freeing ourselves and stepping into feminine energy, the first thing you should do is write down your thoughts. Journaling is so, 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 so important. And when you journal in solitude, in other words, no other interruptions, no telephone, no TV, no social media, and you are simply journaling your thoughts and seeing who you are on paper, it will allow you to start navigating your mindset and what you need and what you want. You can put down all your desires all day, but if your desires and your thinking pattern do not align, you're in a state of confusion. And so
Right. True. Mm-hmm.
being able to
No, I
tap
totally
in,
agree with that.
You have to be able to tap in. And so that would be the first step that I would tell anybody that says, how do I change my mindset? How do I get focused? Or how do I step into my feminine energy? The number one thing is to know who you are. And if you don't know who that person is, it starts with the mind, because as a man thinketh, so is he. And so if your thoughts are not aligned with who you are, I don't really know what to tell you, to be honest.
Right. It's work. That's why mindset work is work. It's not anything that's to be played with. And I know, like, I've worked with clients who aren't big journals. They're journaling. I don't really like to, but you have to always tell people, put something down black and white, just like you said. It may not be these 3 pages of journaling. It may just be, today I want to do this, or this, I'm thinking of this. This is what I'm thinking about myself. That's
Yep.
what mindset work is about.
Yep.
And you have to get help. If you
Absolutely.
can't do it on your own, which is what we do, you have to get help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you find it difficult to journal, get a guided journal. There's so many journals out here in this world that
So many
will guide you on your path to self-discovery, that will guide you on your path to mindset shifting. Like, the mind is the key. And once you have that key mapped out and, regulated and understood, then you can move to the state of, okay, what is my desired self? Like, how do I want to show up in a room? When I show up in a room, this is the feeling that I wanted to feel. This is the response I want people to have. This is how I want to be received and accepted. You can't get there without mindset shift. And so it's the number one thing to do. When you want to walk in your feminine energy, you got to know who you are, and you got to know what your purpose is. And a lot of times we don't even know what that is. Our purpose in life, is embedded within us, right? It's the things that we bring value to. It's the things that we align with that provide some level of power and shift. If you don't know what that is, it's because you don't know who you are.
Right. And also, like, people, and I heard somebody over the weekend say this too, is that we can have many purposes. You don't have to have one specific purpose only. I think people think, well, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? You may have many purposes. You may be a great coach, but you also may be a great mother, and they may be your 2 purposes in life to have. But you have to be able, like you said, something that shifts your mind, something that shakes up the atmosphere for you first. Those are your purposes. And you have to be able to listen to that, which goes back to being able to listen, being to yourself, and to be able to listen, to hear your voice. To me, that's the greatest thing of feminine energy, is to be able to hear yourself. Women who move through the world, who are very listen to themselves and trust themselves first and foremost.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Absolutely. Because finding balance, right, is an ongoing journey. Setbacks are inevitable, right? Like, you should never think that this journey is going to be something that doesn't have any roadblocks or setbacks, but you should be okay with them. So, like, when I teach self-love and I teach accepting, it's accepting your whole self, flaws and all, the things you don't like, the things that you love, the things that you wish you could change and can't, like, it's about accepting you in full totality. It does not mean that everything is picture perfect. Like, oh, I love myself, so everything about me is amazing, and everything about me is just, everything. It's just everything. I'm good. And I can, I can be on the, front cover of a magazine with no blemishes. Like, that's not self-love. Self-love is like, yo, I don't like this part, I can change it. Or I don't like this part, it's not changing, but I'm going to accept it for what it is, in full totality. And so as you are embracing your feminine energy and being soft, it's being in the space of full acceptance. It's being in a space of, man, I'm a real cool chick. I heard somebody else say, I'm a bad bee. And it's like, yes,
Yes.
walk in it and be
Yeah.
okay with it, because the
Own
only
it.
person that matter is you.
Yes. That's the only person you need validation from. If there's somebody else who wants to give you, like, you look great today. Okay, thanks. I tell that to people. If somebody compliments me on whatever, thanks. But guess what? I like that first. I looked in the mirror and I love the way I look today. Or
Right.
whatever, you know what I mean? That's
Right.
that's the way it is. But I don't need validation from other people. That's, to me, that's cool. I love when I see people like that.
Yes, it's so funny. That brought a story to my mind of my grandmother. She and it's she's affectionately my grandmother, but she would say if you told her she was beautiful, she would always tell you thanks, but my mirror told me so. And I used to think that it was the cutest thing
I love that.
to be said, but it spoke volumes, because it's like, I do appreciate your compliment, but I kind of knew that already. You know what I mean? Like, I've been walking in this beauty for all day since I woke up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I
Mhm.
always thought it was so cute. And I was like, oh, it's something that will always stick with me for life,
I love
because I
that.
love myself so much. It's like, yeah, thank you. But my mirror told me so.
Yeah.
And it's like, you keep it moving, you build your confidence, and you walk in the life that you were designed to walk in. Like, you don't, the first validation should come from you. Others
Mhm.
validating you should be a stamp of approval of saying, I'm on the right track. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. It's not supposed to tell you this is what you're supposed to do. Like, it's not to give you permission. It's just to keep you motivated to keep going in the same direction.
Yes, that part. Now that's beautifully said. Beautifully said. Because that's true. Like, I love what your grandmother said. I love that. I'm gonna stick with that too. But I always think that as well. Like, yeah, okay. But
Yeah.
I knew that already. I knew
Right.
that already. But I love that. First and foremost, your validation should be you. First and foremost. And people think that, that's ego. But the feminine and knows that it's not. It's just what it is. It's facts for
Yeah.
Janice. It's facts for Tammy.
Yeah.
That's just, I don't need anybody to tell me that. So I love that.
Yeah.
I
It's
love, love, love
walking in
that.
your truth and
Yes.
knowing what your truth is. And to me,
Yeah.
feminine energy really resides there. It resides in me being me, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And the balance between that energy of independence and nurturing strength, to me, is knowing what space to be in at what
Mm-hmm.
moment to be in it. Period.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
having the ability to decide, oh, I need to be strong and assertive in this space, in this moment.
Right.
And in 5 minutes, when the atmosphere shifts, oh, I can be
Mm-hmm.
compassionate and caring in this moment, and be all those
Mm-hmm.
things within yourself and walk in your own truth.
Yes, ma'am. That's exactly it. Exactly it. And to have healthy boundaries. And
Absolutely.
have all those. No, it's true. I love that.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So
You
as
have
we yeah, you have to, because it's nothing left to do. You know what I mean? Like,
no.
all
That's true.
it's nothing, it's really nothing left to do. But having all of those things allows you to be your full authentic self, and it allows you to have
Mm-hmm.
that balance. And so that means, yes, you can be a boss in the boardroom, and you can be a wife at home that's submissive to her husband, and a
Right.
mom that's nice and sweet and talk and teaches her children how to live an effective life and love themselves, and not just put
Yes.
everybody else first. And you can have
Yes.
all of those things.
You can have all of those things. And also, what else do you have to lose? It's 2024. Like, I hate to tell that to people. I hate to give them a wake up call, but it's 2024. We've got to be comfortable with ourselves. I just mean by saying that date is like, apply to however old you are, but you're old enough to be like, let's not waste any more time. We got to be ourselves. We have to.
Yeah. You're all that
Mm-hmm.
matters.
You're all that matters. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
I
So,
love that.
what are your final thoughts for our listeners today as we wrap up this wonderful discussion?
Yeah. I think that people really need, I really, really, really encourage people to change their narrative about boundaries, about healthy boundaries. Um, you have to be able to look at that differently and to say, no, I am worthy of self love, but I'm also worthy of having those boundaries because I love myself. And if I don't know how to do that per se, step by step, I need to find help to how to do it. I need to journal. I need to figure out how I'm going to get to that point. And to be able to be comfortable with yourself, you have to be able to validate yourself first and foremost. No one is going to be able to validate you but better than you. And you have to do that. You have to do all those things to be able to be your authentic self because that's what it's about. It's about showing up for yourself. It's about loving yourself. It's about knowing how to show up for yourself and to do it with feminine and beautiful energy.
And of course, they can always come see you, right? Tell the people where they can find you.
Sure. They can find me on all the social platforms. I have my company is Be Well Sis _coaching. That's on TikTok. That's on Instagram. But you can find me at janishillard.com, and that's JANIS Hillard HILLARD.com.
Awesome. Janis, thanks for joining us. It has been a pleasure. And remember, love yourself so much that the love from others is a bonus.
That's a wrap on another episode of Loving Me Before I Love You. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a second to show your support by subscribing and leaving a positive rating and review on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Stay connected with Tammy. Make sure you're following her on Instagram and TikTok at Coach Tammy Nicole. If you like to work with Tammy or have any questions you'd like her to answer, please head over to www.IamTammyNicole.com. Until next time, always remember to love yourself so much that the love from others is a bonus.